You trudge across the cracked earth of Fort Cormac under a grey sky that feels thicker than any briefing. Somewhere behind you, laughter echoes, snickers and half-hidden grins, mocking your every step. You probably won't survive this, at least not without every ounce of grit you've packed into your gear. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments below. This base, rumoured to churn out elites, isn't just physical, it's psychological. Your boots sink in dust as you recall the rumours. New recruits whispered about a woman with a black viper mark tattooed under her sleeve. You try to shrink your shoulders beneath the weight of incredulous eyes as you walk into the concrete-walled barracks. From the TV in the corner, images flash of veterans overcoming traumatic brain injuries thanks to a new rehabilitation program reported on NBC News' Veterans section. The announcer says the VA has launched updated outpatient support for former service members. Yet here at Fort Cormac, support feels a world away. You dump your bag into a locker while other trainees glance over, speculating in wordless sentences. Who is she? What's that mark beneath her sleeve? One supply sergeant whispers that it resembles the insignia of a defunct unit nobody talks about anymore. You feel weighty eyes on your arm. Curiosity drips from every corner of the room. Meanwhile, somewhere in the VA newsfeed you'd scrolled through earlier, there was commentary that veterans still argue over the scope of that unit's secret operations, some praising its covert impact, others denouncing the risks and lack of oversight. You tuck all that mental static behind a disciplined facade. Dinner hall is a murmur of cold stares and forced small talk. You sit alone at a long table. The chatter over you is thin. She's too bold. Could it be Black Ops? Someone jokes that the mark might be a commemorative tattoo for venomous snakes. Another says crocodile dung sunscreen would make more sense if you were in a swamp. You ignore it, spooning plain vegetables into your mouth, determined not to flinch. One trainee drops a fork with a clatter as you lock eyes with her, his smirk shifting to something unreadable. Night falls and the wind rattles windows as you prep for lights out. You lie on the bunk thinking, remember that crocodile dung sunscreen? The mocking jokes stick like grit under your fingernails. Your mind drifts between two worlds. The recent news reporting VA initiatives and the historic whisper of the Black Viper unit. You're far from home, with only your own resolve to test every sneer thrown your way. You close your eyes, bracing. Training doesn't wait for freaks to recover. You wake before sunrise, muscles pounding as though they're forging their own rebellion. The air's cold, sharp in your lungs. You lace up and head toward the obstacle course where the rest of your squad drags themselves through mud and barbed wire. You shift into your pace, weaving through the course with a rhythm born of past hours you spent training in isolation. As a columnist in Military Times recently noted, high-intensity prep can reveal unexpected leaders even in the most skeptical squads. The instructor shouts orders across the field. Sprint, creep, crawl. You obey, but instead of slowing during the night crawl, you sprint ahead, gut first through the mud, emerging before the others. They hit the ground moments later, coughing and sputtering. When you crawl past the supervisors, your sleeve snakes up and the lights catch the Black Viper mark. A hush ripples through the line. They laugh first. Low chuckles at your pace, low jeers at the symbol they don't recognize. "Mark her, coach," someone quips. A few reels in the mess hall have shown videos of Croat-style escape missions or infantry ops in Stripes' veterans coverage. Those pieces stressed teamwork over individual showmanship. Here, your solo surge feels like a dare. They mutter your pace is one thing, but that insignia is something else. Too bold, too weird. Black Vipers disbanded decades ago. Someone whispers. Others laugh louder at the irony. You burn through their pace, but carry a unit none of them knew had ever existed. You pass the final obstacle, climb the rope, ring the bell. Silence. The colonel is watching. Sweat drips from your brow. He says nothing, but your chest tightens, because he's seen that mark before. In the trailers of news outlets covering veterans programs, there's mention of a special unit whose missions were so secret no official dossier ever released. Some in the veteran community debate whether it even existed. Meanwhile, a fringe blogger posted a first-hand account claiming the Black Viper had once run a rescue behind enemy lines, but was scrubbed from official archives. Veterans still argue over its scope. You feel that debate closing in on you. Squad members hover, smirks gone cold as you stand panting. The laughter stops. A mid-ranking sergeant comes up to you, nods curtly, then looks away. You can almost hear the rumbles. Prodigal or pretender. Some recall obscure VA-funded documentaries about forgotten ghost units. Others call them conspiracy fodder. That discord threads through your nerves like a live wire. You're ordered to rest. You sit on the fatigued grass, listening to distant drills from newscasts quoting veterans who argue that secrecy in military programs often leaves bravery undocumented. You fold your sleeves to hide the mark. The arm beneath feels tender, but proud. Each breath tastes of challenge. You scan around. Your squad splits into cliques, whispers sharpening like knives. Against this tension, a quirky detail lifts you. During the crawl, someone dropped a chocolate bar from old-style rations, the foil wrapper unwrapping mid-slide, shining in the floodlight. It clattered and fell on your back like an odd badge. You froze momentarily. Others stumbled over it. It's absurd but vivid. Chocolate rations from the 80s. Nostalgia meets mockery. The day drags on. Later, during cleaning detail, trainees scrub dorm floors while gossip circulates about the mark. You scrub near a window. A veteran-run news podcast plays in the background, discussing past rescue ops by unconfirmed units and referencing recent VA outreach for mental health that echoes the need to remember all veterans, even the unofficial ones. You overhear a trainee say, "Veterans still argue whether Black Viper even existed." You look at your sleeve, the mark now faintly visible underneath. You aren't sure what the colonel saw, yet, but something's shifting. By evening, you're scheduled for a briefing prep. The gaze around you has gone from mocking to watchful. The uncertainty in the air tastes sharp, charged. You finish scrubbing and rise, back straightening. Your body aches, but inside, your stride has firmed. The Black Viper mark no longer feels like a curse. Instead, it hums, quiet power amid their questions. You gather your things and head toward the instructor's quarters. You know something's coming, maybe respect, maybe exposure. You brace for silence, because tonight will change everything. You enter the colonel's office just as dusk blurs the edges of the windows. The air inside smells faintly of coffee grounds and military-grade polish. He doesn't look up at first, scanning a dossier. You stand ramrod straight. The room feels hollow, silent. Then he sets the folder aside and leans back, his eyes finally meeting yours. It's quiet. But in that quiet, everything happens. There's a pause. Your heart thuds, wondering which you'll get, praise or blowback. Instead, he whispers two words that land harder than any drill: Black Viper. Only those two uttered in that tone, and the room seems to freeze. He traces the air with his finger, drawing an invisible emblem you wear. That moment shifts everything, like the snap of a silent film reel. You think back to a recent NBC News story about a female veteran from a special ops outfit who overcame the odds to train future recruits. The account mentioned post-traumatic support programs aiding women transitioning from classified missions, though there was no mention of Black Viper by name. Still, veterans in online forums debated its existence. Some poked fun, others cited the possibility of hidden service. Veterans Affairs commentary even highlighted how secrecy can obscure heroism. You weren't just carrying a rumor, you carried that tension with you. The colonel's whisper becomes a quiet echo. They thought it was deactivated. He taps the desk. They were wrong. And suddenly the smirks that once curled around your lips settle into stillness. His voice, calm, factual. Black Viper was real. It's classified history, and you wear its mark. He explains that unit ran rescue operations deep inside unknown zones during a conflict years ago. Missions so deniable they were scrubbed from public records. You feel numb as he recounts it. How men and women volunteered for deep extraction, hostage recoveries, high-risk rescues. How the unit's ops weren't officially archived, but legends survived in whispered VA veterans' testimonials, scattered memoirs, hints in military podcasts. You recall reading in a Veterans Network article that some survivors still argue about the unit's scope, arguing it was too secret to verify. He confirms your mark is real insignia passed to survivors and descendants. He offers no fanfare, no medals here. He says the military doesn't even acknowledge those missions, not publicly. You realize this secret legacy has slept for decades. The colonel pauses. Then softly, "You're its living proof." The weight of the phrase settles in your chest. He invites you to a sealed meeting the next morning for a briefing few attend. You step out and the hallway breathes. In the mess hall downstairs, chatter simmers low. Someone says, "She probably has Hall of Fame-level story," referencing a veterans blog that once urged recognition for forgotten female heroes. Another trainee mutters that Black Viper was rumor, but now nobody laughs. They watch your shadow linger along the corridor. You exit into the cold night air of Fort Cormac. Somewhere on base, a broadcast detail from military times mentions how VA outreach still grapples with veterans from unusual or classified service histories, working without records. That undercurrent of forgotten history, those lost stories, is what you now embody. You walk back to your barracks feeling weight in your step, yet buoyed. The snickering has stopped. Instead, you feel stares turning to something else, apprehensive respect, maybe recognition. The Black Viper mark no longer seems hidden shame. It feels like identity, and the colonel's whisper turns into your fuel. As you lie back on your bunk, the day's revelation turning in your mind, you remember that quirky detail of the chocolate bar foil clattering across your back during the crawl. It suddenly feels symbolic, shine amid dirt, visible truth in the muck. That foil bounce has become the staccato note in a silent soundtrack, your mark and your story rising above. Sleep is hard to find, but when it comes, your last thought is soft. Something bigger than training just began. You wake before dawn again, but this time your body hums with purpose, not dread. You're dressed in clean fatigues, your Black Viper mark hidden beneath your sleeve until needed. The briefing room today hums with silent tension, officers, a few select recruits, and a handful of two-star brass. You're the unknown variable. You take a seat, heart pounding, palms warm, senses sharp. The colonel stands at the head of the table, framed by a map of mountain ranges and defunct safe zones, lit by a single lamp. He begins to speak. The briefing reveals a mission plan as hush-hush as it gets, an extraction in a hostile zone behind enemy lines in terrain the official channel won't touch. The room goes quiet. You remember reading in a veterans support newsletter that family members of hidden ops veterans struggle for recognition. Many rely on unofficial networks because the VA doesn't officially track those missions. You feel a cold thrill. You're not imagining this, you're part of it. The colonel explains your role: lead scout and exit navigator. The team is small, mostly silent professionals, some vetted by that same blog, claiming the Black Vipers had survivors sworn to secrecy. Doubters have dismissed it as conspiracy. Still, veterans who once served alongside missing agents come forward quietly on forums, citing similarities in training routines and clandestine rescue methodologies. You know you're stepping into that debated legacy. Your squad moves out at midday. The load feels light after all the mental baggage you carried, now shed in fragments. Travel is quiet. You ride in unmarked vehicles, drive hours through desert valleys until night blankets the convoy. In a rest stop at a half-abandoned fuel, you check your gear while others eat dried rations. A fellow teammate, a veteran from another branch, glances at your mark. He smirks first, then his expression flips when you describe it. He stops mid-chew. That's when he blurts out, "Black Viper was myth." Then he pauses. "But I know a guy, ran extraction near that area." He goes on, voice low, citing a veteran-run produce in stripes that highlighted underground rescue legends. He says he lost a friend on one of those missions, someone who never got a medal, never got recognized, but whose family is still seeking closure. You nod, stunned. You realize that mission connects to your mark's origin. Somewhere in that fragmentation of memory and rumor is someone who tasked you with making this history real. It's no longer symbolic, it's personal. At night, transition into the target zone. You trek on foot with night vision headsets and thermal sensors. The operation takes you into claustrophobic canyons under a sky smeared with distant fires. Your heartbeat synchronizes with the hush of the desert. This scene is scene after scene in veterans' documentaries about stealth extraction, unacknowledged but heroic. VA outreach programs mentioned anonymously review PTSD aid for vets who participated in such ops decades ago, often without paperwork. You breathe in that shared silence, knowing you're healing a legacy as much as completing a mission. You arrive at the target compound, derelict, guarded lightly, surrounded by barbed wire. Surveillance cameras flicker. You lead forward, heart steady, steps ghost quiet. Inside, you find civilian captives, scared but alive. You coordinate quietly, point, break, lock, guide them out. It's a moment of tension that pulses in tactile slow motion. Hand over lock, door creaks, captives gather behind you. You turn, blaze of gunfire erupts as alarms feed through broken speakers. Training takes over. You sprint, weave, shield others, dive into the night. You run. The Black Viper mark burns under your sleeve, unseen. You feel the legacy coursing, your breath ragged, heart pounding, but you keep moving. As trucks reach the pickup zone, you usher survivors aboard. You look back once and catch the blur of dust and fire chasing you. Yet the convoy accelerates and you're out. In the aftermath, as helicopters approach and you debrief under bright floodlights, someone snaps a photo of you. All eyes catch the mark on your bent arm. That image later leaks online. Veterans and watchdogs across forums erupt. Some demand recognition, others raise legal flags about unauthorized ops. Veterans' Facebook groups and Twitter threads explode as commentators debate the ethical scope, viewing real-time pictures of a known military base operative with an unofficial insignia. A few echo that column you read, that revealing the unacknowledged can upend official narratives. That chaos from the leak isn't accidental, it's a revelation. You hear lingering shouts from the field. Veterans still argue over Black Viper's legitimacy. Some posts praise you as proof, others accuse you of breaking security protocols. Comments flood from VA blog readers saying extraction units forgotten by records deserve acknowledgement and benefits. You breathe slower, absorbing the ripple. The mission isn't over. Outside the field, a larger fight begins. You stay silent during initial press hold because nothing official exists for them to quote. Your presence and that old mark are enough. The controversy you stepped into follows you back into Fort Cormac. As you walk through gates, the weight of whispers no longer bites, they hum with potential change. You clutch your fatigues close, heart steady. Something changed today. And it wasn't just a mission, it was reopening history. You're back at Fort Cormac, but nothing's normal anymore. Word on base is thick, a photo has been leaked. Your image, mid-extraction, sleeve rolled just enough to hint at the Black Viper mark. The image circulates faster than wildfire through barracks, mess halls, online forums and veterans groups. Veterans on Facebook pages, military-affiliated Twitter threads and blog comment sections erupt. Some hail you as living proof the Black Viper unit existed, even though official records remain silent. Others accuse the operation of unauthorized dependability, labeling it reckless exposure. Veterans Affairs bloggers debate whether non-documented rescue history merits formal acknowledgement and support. Inside the leaks, voices clash. Veterans still argue over Black Viper's legitimacy. Some call it myth. Some claim first-hand accounts. Comments referencing veterans' news articles argue service histories, those unofficial but real, must count in records and benefits. They ask, if history disappears online, does service disappear too? Many recall the Department of Defense's recent purge of images and stories honoring women and black troops, erased under a DEI ban, now reversed in some cases, but the damage remains. The Pentagon restored certain pages, but critics warn about erasing history before it mattered. Your case becomes symbolic. Editors at a veterans newsletter detail how uprooted recognition hurts veterans and families who served off-record. A veteran podcast host reviews your photo, says in hushed commentary, she's not just a symbol, she's the reckoning. Doubters point to ethics. Was the mission sanctioned? Laws about searchable operations come into play. Supporters counter, Valor isn't always authorized before the fact. They cite how other unofficial warriors like Tuskegee Airmen or Code Talkers were excluded, or how images were stripped from sites despite their heroism. Meanwhile, the rumor mill on your base transitions. Mortars of gossip transform into ammunition of possibility. Back in the mess hall, quiet warriors say under their breath that she made the unseen visible. That shift, mockery to inquiry, mirrors the broader debate about whether unsanguished deservist deserves patterned support. You overhear veterans in off hours mention VA mental health programs tailored for unacknowledged ops survivors, programs discussed in federal veterans coverage. Your name, once anonymous trainee, has become a rallying point. Social media threads suggest creating databases for covert vets. Veterans groups urge the VA to verify leak-free testimonies. A manager in a veterans blog says, if official history can deny stories with real losses, we owe truth to those who served in shadows. The leak, while contested, has become a catalyst for change. On base, you remain silent. The colonel nods in briefings, his presence steady but withdrawn. He makes no public statement, but his earlier whisper and today's hushed respect say more than any memo. Your gaze in training has shifted. You're not the subject of ridicule anymore. You're the subject of possibility, a mark in motion toward legitimacy. The switchboard of conversation has flipped. Your story doesn't end with extraction. It expands into recognition. Purpose hums beneath each glance. And as you settle into another night at Fort Cormac, the uproar reaches beyond walls, into halls of policy, into comment threads, into the debates of veterans historians. You wake to a different day at Fort Cormac. The base hums, not out of routine, but something new. Awareness. Down at the training yard, groups gather to discuss speculation sparked by the leaked image. You gear up, sleeve rolled down, but people glance anyway. You catch whispers, Black Viper's back in the conversation. The mark stands for more than just you. The law you once wore alone is now shared language. Your training motions feel smoother, built on sharpened purpose. Each push-up, sprint, obstacle carries weight beyond performance. You're aware of unseen watchers in the shadows of ranks, bureau members, analysts, veterans, journos tracking your story. Their chatter seeds change, calls for formally acknowledging covert service units, demands for VA support for families of unrecognized operators. A story in Military Times had argued that hidden histories breed mistrust. Now, internal policy analysts debate extending recognition retroactively, even possibly a medal for valor under classification. You're not just training, you're movement. That afternoon you attend a closed-door session with VA liaisons brought to base. They acknowledge gaps in veteran records for classified missions, admit case studies show survivors of secret operations struggle to access benefits. The image circulating of you and the iconography of that unacknowledged Black Viper unit becomes central. Liaisons note that veterans still argue whether Black Viper existed, and now there's pressure to reconcile. They ask for your testimony. You speak calmly. Recount your training, the colonel's revelation, the rescue, the outrage. Your voice cracks only once. They listen. You exit that session into a hush, broken by a solitary tap on your shoulder. A veteran from VA says quietly, your case may open doors for others. Someone else, a former operator, hands you a small patch, a stylized snake coiled around a silent star. For safekeeping, they say. It's symbolic, unofficial, but it feels like lineage. By evening, your image and story hit broader news outlets. Veterans' Voices, a trusted source, runs an editorial naming you the living legacy of hidden heroism. Social commentary pieces appear, arguing recognition shouldn't require paperwork. A blogger reviews your leaked photo and writes, she's what truth looks like when it breaks silence. Veterans forum threads are ablaze. Some criticize operational breach, others call Congress to investigate declassification. Even policy experts reference VA coverage recommending benefits access for clandestine service. Back in the barracks, the atmosphere is unrecognizable. The snickers you once heard have morphed into subdued head nods. One trainee you once passed on the mud crawl stops you. I didn't see the mark then, but now, respect. He touches the patch you still conceal in your palm. Another signs up for extra detail training, inspired by your pace. The movement you sparked ripples across ranks. It's quiet but tangible. That night, you walk alone under starlit sky. The base lights cast long shadows. You imagine the women and men who served in secret decades ago. No recognition, no honor, only whispers. You think, today they speak through you. That mission, your story, the mark, it's more than symbolism. It's change. You carry silence now consciously. Each dawn you train harder, push further, embody the legacy. Not for fame, not for medals, but so others don't stay invisible. The dialogue you began continues beyond you. Policy sessions, news cycles, VA updates. The ripple becomes current. Now your trajectory bends toward recognition, public or policy-based. The mark may still be unofficial, but everything it awakened is real. You sense finality and momentum colliding. The world once hid Black Viper's truth, but it cannot unsee what you've revealed. You move forward. You stretch out beneath low lights in the barracks quiet. The day, the controversy, the mission, the history, feels like a film winding down slow. Your breath softens, and the rhythm of heartbeat slows, becomes steady even. The world beyond these walls may still be noisy, still debating, still demanding answers, but here, beneath this ceiling, you find calm. Even as record systems update, threads hum with possibility, and policy papers shift under your story's weight. Remember, this isn't about headlines. It's about faces once blurred, histories once erased, lives once denied recognition. Your one voice, carrying centuries of silent valor. The insignia beneath your sleeve may remain unofficial, but it pulses with real legacy, a lineage of hidden courage no longer forgotten. And wherever this journey goes, whether medals come or just acknowledgement, you've changed more than your own history. You've opened doors for others who served in shadows. The starlight rests through the window panes, soft and patient. Your body relaxes, muscles releasing tension you didn't know you held. You close your eyes, sensation mellow, drawing out that final image, a silent emblem, a whispered truth, an awakening. In that quiet, you sense the ripple reaching further than any firestorm ever could. Sleep arrives gentle, unhurried. Tomorrow will bring meetings, questions, maybe even honors. But tonight is peace. You rest with the comfort that what you carried became something bigger, a movement, a recognition, a legacy.